Hello, trading has closed on June 26th, 2024. We'll do our disclaimer, go over our calls, and make some predictions. So my trading plan for Thursday, which is June 27th, 2024. Please remember my calls can be wrong. Trade at your own risk. I may be busy for most of the day tomorrow. Don't know if I'll be able to watch the market all day. We had a few calls. We looked for the pattern with the early low. This is it. Tomorrow should have the early high. We said this was a negative pattern, and we should, unless we gapped up smartly, we should trade lower regardless of how we closed. Here's what we said. Maintained at the open, bearish pattern, lower close, lower prices. We didn't close lower, we closed slightly up, essentially unchanged, but we did trade lower, and that's the prediction. We were up all night, but I said I'd be suspicious of the call unless we gapped under this low. We did gap under the low, so that worked out. This is something the late friend of mine, Bill Blount, used to call a P&T trap, European trap. All the Europeans overnight are going long. By the time we open, we've undercut this entire rally. They're trapped and they have to get out. So it's a very negative pattern. So in addition to the negative pattern from the wave count, we had a negative European trap pattern, and we had a target of 54.5139. The low of the day was 54.5187, so we missed by 48 cents. Well, for most systems, 48 cents is nothing. That's a good call. But for the MEJT system, even though there is a tolerance, that's a very exact system, and 48 cents is outside the tolerance, so we have to call this an unfilled target, even though we didn't miss by much, and we'll add it to the list. Now, these prices are not just targets, they're also a support level, but that just goes for the first challenge. So if we hit this price again, and we should at some point, the support's been used up and there's no support any longer under that level. Well, during the day we got an ultimate buy signal in the morning. That's a bare minimum. We almost always get more than the minimum, and even though we dropped and undercut that low, we did get more than the minimum. We had this drop. MEJT said it wouldn't stick, that we'd retrace over this line, and we did, so that's played out. This is a wall into the close. You know my feelings about walls. They tend to be panic trades by retail customers, and very often they get reversed promptly at the next day's open. Doesn't work every time, but futures are down as I'm writing this, and if it works, we're going to gap down and promptly undercut this low. Well, how about the wave count? Well, I said yesterday this should be the end of wave B, blue B, although it could be just A of B. I didn't think it was, but that's the way I'm counting it now. That would be A of B, and that's B of B, and that would be C of B, and the fibs work. The whole thing looks a bit forced to me, but doesn't break any rules. It's better than any other count I see, and this close is right at a 61.8% retrace of this whole drop. So it is a logical place for the move to end if this holds. So if this holds, and that we're not going to know until tomorrow, if this holds, we could get a wave, capital blue C, comparable to blue A, which is about a 1% drop. But until I see it, I'm not certain I'm going to believe it. Futures are down. If we start down here, I'm going to have to believe it. But we had a perfect setup for a drop today, and that didn't happen. And usually, when you get a perfect setup and it misses, something else is going on. Now, we close little change. I always just repeat my call when we close little change, and an unchanged call, and that's under 1/4%. That's just an intercalary a day to me. It doesn't change anything in the picture. So if we drop, everything is still in place, but I'm a little bit leery that we didn't see that drop today. And what really makes me leery is the calendar, because a week from tomorrow is the 4th of July, and that's one of the most consistently bullish weeks of the year, the week leading up to it. So I'm going to need more than the usual amount of evidence for me to take the short side, even though if we do drop, I can certainly explain it. You have to be open to the possibility that something else is going on. So Thursday's pattern is the early high. Typically it's a rally day with a high in the final hour. Failure is a straight line drop. We head a wall into the close, and often that's followed by gapping down. So if we drop from here, and that's an if, the fibs work and there's no nearby MEJT support, and futures are down as I write this, so such a drop is entirely possible. The week, which includes the 4th of July historically, has been one of the market's most consistently bullish weeks. We have what I consider an ideal setup for a drop today, and that didn't happen. Since we closed with a change, it's valid to repeat the prediction that we're valid to a big drop. That's still the call with my fingers crossed and flat overnight. However, the longer we go without dropping, and the closer we get to the 4th of July, the less interested I am in taking a short position. I'm flat overnight. We can still explain a drop here, but I'm getting a little bit concerned that something else might be going on. I'm not risking any money at this time. I'm going to see how the early trade plays out tomorrow. It's the pattern with the early high, and for my idea to work, there really should be a straight line drop pretty much right from the open. And if that doesn't happen, I don't really have to commit any money. I don't mind missing the winner as long as I don't take any losers. So it's the pattern with the early high, and that's today's call.